If there's one thing that has always captured the popular imagination, it's those places that seem to have been forgotten by time, or cursed by some invisible force. Empty houses with broken windows, silent streets where only the wind can be heard, facades crumbling as if to hide ancient secrets. Who hasn't seen, in a movie or TV series, a village lost on the map, an abandoned neighborhood, or an entire city swallowed up by mystery? In the United States, there are hundreds of these places, known as ghost towns, each with a history as curious as it is dark. Some were abandoned due to tragedy, others succumbed when their source of wealth dried up, and there are still those shrouded in legends and mysteries that drive away any residents. Today on Bello Mundo, we will visit 11 of these cities, traveling from Alaska to Alabama, passing through deserts, icy mountains, and valleys that hold more questions than answers. Number 11. Bombay Beach, California. Bombay Beach is located on the eastern shore of the Salton Sea, a large salt lake in Southern California that was actually created by accident in the early 20th century when a diversion of the Colorado River flooded the area. In the 50s and 60s, it was a luxury destination. Wealthy people from Los Angeles went there to sail, fish, and drink cocktails at sunset. The problem is that the lake has no natural outlet and receives water with fertilizers and pesticides from surrounding farms. Over time, evaporation increased salinity, millions of fish died, and the beaches were covered with a carpet of bones and scales, giving off a suffocating smell. The local economy collapsed, tourism disappeared, and the houses were left empty. Today, fewer than 300 people live here, surrounded by toxic dust storms rich in heavy metals that can cause respiratory problems. Instead of trying to hide the abandonment, residents have embraced surrealism. Artists have transformed the village into an open-air gallery with sculptures made from scrap metal, rusted cars planted in the sand, and pianos rotting in the sun. It's a place that looks like a post-apocalyptic movie set, but with real people living in it. Number 10. Thurmond, West Virginia. On the banks of the New River Gorge, a deep green valley that is now protected as a national park in the United States and famous for its bridges and extreme sports, lies Thurmond. In the early 20th century, the place was one of the busiest railway centers in the region, receiving trains from the Chesapeake and Ohio Railway, one of the great railroad companies of the time. There were hotels, saloons, shops, and a bank, all fueled by the transportation of coal, West Virginia's main source of wealth. But with the advent of automobiles and the decline in demand for coal transported by train, business began to dwindle. The 70s practically sealed its fate. Businesses closed, families moved away, and the population plummeted. Today, according to the U.S. Census, fewer than 5 people live here. The curious thing is that the town was neither demolished nor forgotten. It is part of the National Park Service, a federal agency that preserves parks and historic sites. The buildings remain standing, restored, and it is possible to walk through streets that seem to be waiting for the arrival of a train that will never come. If Thurmond lives in preserved silence, the next town is an underground hell that never goes out, a fire that has been burning under its streets for over 60 years. Number 9. Centralia, Pennsylvania. Centralia is located in the state of Pennsylvania, a region historically marked by coal mining. The city was founded in the 19th century thanks to the underground mines that provided jobs and prosperity for hundreds of families. It seemed like one of those places that would survive for generations. But in 1962, a fire started in one of the underground coal mines. The exact cause is still debated, Some say that workers set fire to a nearby landfill without realizing that the flames would reach the coal galleries. Others claim that it was the result of negligence in mining operations. The problem is that coal is the perfect fuel. The fire spread through miles of underground tunnels, unreachable by firefighters. To this day, more than 60 years later, the fire continues to burn, releasing smoke and toxic gases through cracks in the asphalt. In the 80s, the federal government declared the area uninhabitable. Houses were expropriated, streets were closed, and almost all residents left. Today, only a few resistant families remain, living amid warning signs and areas where the ground can give way without warning. Centralia has become almost an urban legend. It has inspired movie and game settings, such as Silent Hill, and attracts curious visitors who want to see the cracked roads and smoke rising from the ground up close. Ultimately, the case of Centralia is unique for several reasons. There are other underground fires in the world, especially in mines in China, India, and even other parts of the United States. But few have had such a profound impact on an entire community and become so famous. Speaking of places that burn in surreal ways, have you ever heard of the Gate to Hell in Turkmenistan? It's a giant crater in the middle of the desert that has been burning since the 70s. Want to know more about it? We have a very comprehensive video here on the channel called The Most Mysterious and Secret Country in the World, which explains everything. Be sure to watch it after this one. Number 8. Bannack, Montana. At the height of the gold rush in the 1860s, Bannack, Montana was synonymous with quick fortune and constant danger. Gold attracted adventurers, traders, and outlaws willing to do anything. The town gained a reputation as the most violent in the West. Stagecoach robberies were routine, and even the sheriff, Henry Plummer, was accused of leading a gang of outlaws. With the end of the gold rush, Bannack lost its reason for existing. Today, more than 60 original buildings still stand, including saloons, the Old School, and the imposing Mead Hotel, which once served as a courthouse and jail. During the day, the place seems peaceful, but visitors swear they hear footsteps in the corridors and feel doors closing by themselves. In July, the Bannack Days Festival recreates duels, parades, and markets, bringing the turbulent atmosphere of the past to life. But when night falls and the cold wind blows through the old walls, it's easy to understand why many believe that Bannack has not yet said goodbye to its ghosts. And if violence shaped the destiny of this place in the next town, time simply decided to stop. Number 7. Body, California. Between icy mountains and dirt roads, Body is more than a ghost town. It is a frozen snapshot of the Old West. Founded in the 70s, it became a feverish center of the California gold rush, with over 10,000 inhabitants, dozens of saloons, and a less-than-friendly reputation. A girl who moved there summed it up well in her diary. Going to Bodie. Goodbye to God. I'm going to hell. When the gold began to run out, the population left. The curious thing is that they left so quickly that they left everything behind: furniture, dishes, clothes, toys. Today, at Bodie State Historic Park, you can peek through the windows and see tables set for meals that were never served and toys waiting for children who never returned. But there is a curious warning. It is said that anyone who takes any object from Bodie will suffer bad luck until they return it. This superstition is taken so seriously that the park receives packages in the mail with rocks and pieces of wood accompanied by letters of apology. Number 6. Kennecott, Alaska. In the middle of the vast and frozen Wrangell St. Elias, the largest national park in the United States, lie the red ruins of Kennecott. In the early 20th century, the Kennecott Copper Corporation discovered one of the largest copper deposits on the planet there. In a short time, engineers, doctors, teachers, and more than 300 workers transformed that isolated piece of Alaska into a complete city, with a hospital, school, cafeterias, and even a tennis court. For a few years, life was intense. Money flowed, production was high, and it seemed that Kennecott had a bright future. But the copper ran out faster than anyone imagined. In 1938, mining stopped and everyone left overnight, leaving tools, furniture, and documents behind as if they were coming back the following week. But no one returned. Silence took over. Visitors today see huge wooden buildings against the backdrop of snow-capped mountains, and many swear they hear voices and noises of miners working, even though no one is around. Number 5. Rhyolite, Nevada. Between the suffocating heat of the desert and the arid mountains of Nevada, Rhyolite was born with the typical promise of easy riches. It was 1904 when gold was discovered nearby, and in a matter of months the place became a human anthill. Banks, schools, luxury hotels, and even a train station sprang up in record time, while speculators inflated prices as if the mine were eternal. But the abundance was short-lived. Less than 10 years later, the gold ran out, investments dried up, and the population began to evaporate. By 1914, the city was on the verge of collapse, and when the bank closed, it was the final blow. Rhyolite was abandoned almost as quickly as it had grown. Today, all that remains are cinematic ruins, the imposing facade of the Cook Bank, a stone skeleton that was once a symbol of power, the almost intact train station, and even a bottle house, built with thousands of glass bottles, which still stands the test of time. The place also gained fame for stories of nocturnal figures and mysterious lights cutting through the sky, leaving in the air the question of whether it is the work of ghostly miners or just a desert mirage. Number 4. St. Thomas, Nevada. Today, St. Thomas is just a pile of fallen walls and streets swallowed by weeds, but in the past it was a vibrant community founded by Mormons in the mid-19th century. The place grew on the banks of the Virgin River, taking advantage of the fertile soil for agriculture and becoming an important stopping point for travelers crossing the desert. Everything changed in the 1930s, when the U.S. government decided to build the Hoover Dam. The project promised energy and progress for the entire region, but it came at a high price for St. Thomas. With the formation of Lake Mead, the entire city would be submerged. Families resisted as long as they could, but one by one they left their homes behind. In 1938, the last resident turned off the lights and left by boat as the water rose through the streets. For decades, St. Thomas lay hidden beneath the lake, until drought and falling water levels began to reveal its ruins. Today, anyone walking there can see the skeletons of old buildings, roads that lead nowhere, and even the remains of brick kilns. It's like visiting a ghost that literally came from the depths. Number 3. Piqua, Oklahoma. Here, the silence is not just abandonment. It is a place that is literally poisoned. The city emerged in the early 20th century when one of the largest lead and zinc deposits in the United States was discovered in the region. In a short time, Piqua became an industrial hub with thousands of workers, full schools, and booming commerce. But prosperity came at an invisible and deadly price. For decades, tons of toxic waste, known as chat piles, accumulated in the open, forming veritable mountains of contaminated debris. Lead-laden dust seeps into the air, water, and soil. Studies have shown that nearly all children in the city had dangerous levels of lead in their blood, causing neurological and developmental problems. As if that weren't enough, underground mining has left the subsoil unstable. In some places, the ground could simply give way. In 2008, the government declared Pisher uninhabitable. Houses were demolished, schools closed, and the population evacuated. Today, all that remains are empty streets, exposed foundations, and warning signs alerting people to chemical hazards. It is a place where even ghosts wear masks to avoid breathing the poisoned air. Number 2. Times Beach, Missouri. Times Beach was founded in the 1920s as a cheap resort on the banks of the Merrimack River in the state of Missouri. The idea was simple: sell lots at low prices to middle-class families looking for a summer retreat. Gradually, modest houses, local businesses, a main road, and even a community newspaper sprang up. For decades, the town lived peacefully, but in the early 80s, an environmental scandal changed everything. To control dust on the dirt roads, the city hired a service to spray the streets with used oil. What no one knew was that the oil was contaminated with dioxin, a highly toxic and carcinogenic substance, a byproduct of industrial processes linked to the manufacture of herbicides and even Agent Orange, used in the Vietnam War. The contamination was discovered in 1982 after investigations linked animal deaths and cases of strange diseases to the dust on the streets. The U.S. government decided to completely evacuate the city. More than 2,000 people had to leave their homes. In 1992, all buildings in Times Beach were demolished, and the site was transformed into Route 66 State Park. Today, visitors can see trails, lawns, and signs telling the story of the disaster. It is a rare case of a city that disappeared not for economic reasons, but because it literally became too dangerous to exist. Number 1. Gilman, Colorado. Perched on a cliff more than 8,500 feet above sea level, Gilman looks like a village frozen in time. Founded in the late 19th century, the town grew with the mining of silver, gold, copper, and later zinc. The setting was perfect for prosperity, a working-class community surrounded by the Rocky Mountains, with a school, hospital, market, and a cluster of wooden houses lining the narrow streets. But beneath the postcard image lurked a silent enemy. Decades of mining had left the soil and groundwater contaminated with heavy metals and sulfuric acid. In the 80s, the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency declared Gilman an environmental disaster area. Drinking the water there was practically like drinking poison. The government ordered a total evacuation in 1984. It was so sudden that many residents left furniture, clothes, and even photos on the walls, as if they were coming back on the weekend. But no one ever returned. Since then, access has been restricted, but adventurers and ghost hunters still climb the winding road to peek through the windows and see intact rooms covered in dust and cobwebs. And so we come to the end of our journey through some of the most remarkable ghost towns in the United States. Which of these towns piqued your curiosity? Would you dare to walk alone through these deserted streets? Tell us in the comments. And if you enjoy this type of content, which shows you what no one else is telling you, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Here, every week, we embark on a new destination. Thank you very much for joining us so far, and see you on the next adventure through our Bello Mundo.